Well, well. What do we have here? Jim Ryan leaving PlayStation. Big news. Thanks everybody for tuning in to this stream. Impromptu again on a Wednesday night. Thanks for tuning into this Mavcast as we got some big time news today. As this past 2 weeks, it's been knuckin' futs, right? It's been knuckin' futs. Like you're talking about Xbox leaks. You have ABK news coming down. You have just tons of stuff. And then out of the blue, here we go. PlayStation news hits as well. But it's not the kind of PlayStation news that's going to get a lot of people excited. Well, maybe you should be, right? Maybe we should be excited for this, right? Personally, I think I am excited for this. And Jim Ryan is retiring. Jim Ryan has said that he will be leaving PlayStation in March, and that's the end of his 5-year run as head of PlayStation. And it's going to be an interesting transition. We're going to see where things are going. But I want to thank everybody for tuning into this stream. It's late on a Wednesday night. We're at 10:09 my time, PM. It's 11:09 the Eastern time. So wherever you are, thank you all for tuning into this stream. I appreciate you for being here. It's gonna be. I have some interesting thoughts on this now. Pong Soul and I have a show tomorrow as well at 7 p.m. Eastern time. PM in the PM, and I feel like we're gonna have some great conversations because I know what he made a commented on my tweet a little while ago, and he says he kind of have his differing opinion on some of this stuff than I do, but that's fun. It's gonna be fun discussions tomorrow and see kind of where we stand on it. And there's a lot of like people making tweets right now saying like, Jim did a great job during his 5 years, that they were on top for the 5 years that Jim was there and all this kind of stuff. And, I kind of look at it as in a little bit differently. And we're going to get into exactly what that is, but I'm going to shout out to the chat here and everybody that's here right now. What's up to Calorie? What's up, dude? Why so serious? The Beer Baron, Def Leopard, Poison Maniac, John Bond, Zombie. What's up? Camp Easy. How are you doing? Grumpy Shaman. What's up? Hitting FG's Blunted. What's up? How you going? How you doing? Game Shark, what up? Mitchy Poo, how's it going as well? You guys all rock. Thanks for being here on this stream. Yeah, it's whew. I gotta give a huge shout out to Fuzzy Belvedere, because Fuzzy's been calling this, right? And I don't know exactly what's causing this. Right? I don't know what's prompted Jim to all of a sudden bow out, but Fuzzy read the tea leaves a while back, and he said multiple times. I'm a little early, Tom. I'm sorry. But Fuzzy said multiple times he thinks if the ABK deal was going to close, that Jim might leave, that Jim might retire. What did we get news last week is ABK is looks like it's going to close. The writing was on the wall when PlayStation signed that agreement, right? Maybe it's just the writing has been on the fucking wall and he's like, you know what? I'm going to get out of here while I can, right? Bowing out. Some would say he's, he's been there 30 years. He's just going to have a nice retirement, call it quits, but I don't know. Like, I think there's reasons why he's leaving, and besides the, just wanting to retire, I think either he's being forced out. I think maybe they don't see the future projections as a good thing. Maybe the failure of the PSVR 2 and the wasted efforts there. It's going to be interesting to see where they're at. Maybe they didn't get to where they needed to be with a lot of things as soon as they needed to get there as well. Maybe he embarrassed them a little bit, right? Stream is stuttering. Yeah, getting a little bit of connection issues. Is it better? It's not. I mean, I'm in the green right now, but I see YouTube's having issues. Are we clear? It's buffering right now. Is it clear? Or is it buffering? I mean, my connection's been solid on OBS, but like YouTube keeps having little errors pop up. Stream's good for you? I know it's got to be something because multiple of you have said something. Yeah, maybe Jim's like upset. Maybe Jim's like trying to hack me. You know, they got hacked. So maybe Jim's like, you know what, we're gonna get our hackers and anybody talking shit. Alvin with the $2 appreciate you. Says ha 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 ha. This one's for you, Alvin. That's your super chat right there. $2. Appreciate it, bro. And then another Alvin $5 super chat says this new guy Hiroki is on record saying that mobile is the future of gaming. The core is going to be real when it hits the stables. So yeah, like I said, it's gonna be interesting. Transition. It's gonna be an interesting time, right? But don't know how it's gonna go. Now, what I want to do is kind of take a look at the key thing that we can look at, right? The key thing is Jim Ryan leaving PlayStation in a better place than when he got there, right? Now, and not to get political, and I'll probably bring this up tomorrow too, not to get political, but I mean, oftentimes when there's like transitions of a party and like president races or whatever, and a new president takes over, right? The current staff or whatever, the current leadership always gets the blame of what's happening or the credit of what's happening in the present. But in my honest opinion, a lot of times, a lot of the things that happen is always set up from the past, right? Like you have, let's say you have a shitty economy, you have all these horrible issues, and you take like 4 years or 8 years of doing all these policy changes, of doing all these different things with taxes, all this stuff, and you finally get it in an amazing place, and then you hand it over. And then it's great for another 4 to 8 years or whatever. And it's people are living like great, economy's in the best place ever and all this kind of stuff. But you make a lot of bad decisions along the way. And then by the time you're leaving, shit's starting to go under, right? And then the next people take office. And then all of a sudden, you know, the economy's still collapsing, all that kind of stuff. And they only last 4 years because, you know, they get the blame for everything. So the reason I'm bringing that up, like I said, like not to get political or one side versus the other or any of that kind of stuff, but the 5 years that Jim spent at PlayStation, honestly, at living on top, right? I feel like was all set up from the previous leadership. You have 5 years from 2018 to 2023. Now, Jim's done a lot of things there in the meantime, but I feel like a lot of it's been half steps. Look at what the lineup is right now that we know about compared to when he took over. For the last 5 years, Jim's been putting out games that were either kicked off or started development before he got there or kicked off sequels. 2 games that were already existing and kicked off before he got there. So you had this great run of 5 years that he was there, but it started before he got there. Like, I would say with the PS4 era, the leadership team that was all in place then put PlayStation in this really great place, and he's been riding the coattails since then. Now what you have is a bunch of question marks, right? Like, what is the lineup? One big game this year, right? One big first party game this year. Then you have some live service games announced potentially for 2024 that the PlayStation audience was not excited for. They had horrible showcases this year that brought zero excitement. You had, and even the second showcase that some people liked, the only reason was because it had Spider-Man 2 in it, which is a game that everybody knew about, and that's the third game in the Spider-Man franchise, and now they're releasing in several years. So you're talking about riding the coattails of stuff that people had done before you took in charge, before you became the president or whatever of PlayStation. So what state are you leaving it in? You're leaving it in a state with a lot of questions. Now, to Jim's credit, you had a lot of acquisitions for back-end stuff. You got like the port studios, they're working on stuff with the cloud. They did the PS Plus. They did all these things. But everything was like a half step. Everything was a half step. They still don't have a PC app. They still don't have cross-progression, cross-buy. A PlayStation Plus still doesn't have games day one on their service. They're still not putting games day one on PC. All this stuff that hopefully would be better for the future of PlayStation, they're nowhere near. Like, we're talking about, when did Game Pass launch? Like 2016, 2017, something like that? We're talking about 7 years later, and they're still like nowhere near in the same realm of what kind of service Game Pass has. And they're still charging for cloud saves, like this ridiculous stuff. Not only that, PlayStation was the first platform to go up on pricing for games. They were setting the precedent and the stage that it's acceptable to raise the prices. Then we also got another price hike just recently for PS Plus, which is an inferior service to Game Pass by miles, without any extra value or benefit going into it as well. So numerous things, always about, for the payers is what I look at as Jim Ryan's era. Always saying one thing and doing another, lying to the fan base, constantly lying, will be his legacy. I don't know about you guys, but if I ran a company and I leave, do I want my legacy to be as the most famous nickname in gaming CEO history of Jim Lyin Ryan? I wouldn't. Like, I would like look at that as like, maybe I wasn't as transparent as I should have been to the fan base about what we're doing, and now maybe I got them through, though. Maybe the lies is what kept them on top, right? Maybe telling the truth would have snowballed things faster than they might otherwise. You look at the lineup ahead, and there's a lot of question marks, right? Are these cloud or these live service games, are they going to hit? Are they going to be successful? How many big first-party single-player games do they have in the works? How many more of them are sequels? Like, even the games that launched when he was in charge, most of those were all started beforehand. Like Ghost of Tsushima, you want to give him credit for that? That started development in 2014. He didn't take charge until 2018. So a lot of the big hits, you can name it: Spider-Man, God of War, The Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima. We'll see what else. Did I already say Spider-Man? What am I missing? Other big PlayStation games. A lot of these all started before 2018 in development, and then they've been riding the coattails of sequels ever since then. To Fuzzy's credit, again, Fuzzy said, I think Jim might leave if, this ABK deal goes down. Jim out there making statements constantly, claiming this, claiming that all the time about Microsoft, about Xbox, Lyin, saying they're going to take the games away from PlayStation, all this kind of stuff. Like saying stuff like, "Oh, we don't want to make a deal with Xbox. We just want y'all to block it," right? Things like that coming out constantly. A lot of the leaked information comes out. A lot of the interviews he's done have been opposite of what the words are that they're saying to the fans, right? When they have presentations. Remember, I believe in generations. We believe in generations and all that kind of stuff. And then you come out and everything is cross generational or whatever you want to call it, cross gen, right? Like everything's PS4, PS5. I think this year's like the first year we're getting like games that are PS5 only finally, right? And I'm not saying like that's necessarily a wrong thing, but I'm saying is you're lying to your audience about it. Where remember Xbox got shit on a long time ago for telling people they were going to support both platforms for a couple years. Remember everybody said that. Remember that Xbox said that they were going to be supporting Xbox One and for a couple years, and everybody's like, "Oh, they're holding back. They're holding back gaming, right?" So what did PlayStation do? They say we believe in generations, right? They said we believe in. That's what Jim Ryan said. He said we believe in generations, putting out there and trying to take advantage of the conversation, the negativity going towards Xbox, twisting it, flipping it, putting PlayStation on the pedestal as saying we're better because we determine when the generation happens. We determine it. Remember, the next gen doesn't start till PlayStation says so. That's Jim Ryan's words, right? All of this stuff, one thing after another, lie after lie after lie after lie, putting all of those things out there that are just flat bullshit, right? Just flat bullshit. There is no truth to a lot of that stuff, but it's marketing speak. Then they go out there and do the opposite. They go out there and for 3 years put out cross-gen games. 3 years cross-gen games. But no, they don't want to go all the way cross-gen. They won't let you use your old controllers on a PS5. You got to make sure you buy a new one. You got to have new controllers. You can't use that old shit. Nope. New controllers for PS5. Cross-generational only applies to games, even when they lied and said that they believed in generations. Bunch of bullshit. One thing after another. Bullshit. That's Jim Ryan's legacy as far as saying one thing to the fan base and then coming out and then doing another. And then in interviews where it's been most interesting, he's been pretty transparent, right? PlayStation audience doesn't usually actually read that shit. They don't actually acknowledge the things. When they say they're going multi-platform, when they're saying they're doing this, when they're saying they're doing that, PlayStation audience usually doesn't even look at that stuff. Like they're just like, oh, we just take what he says to us, like during these shows or whatever, as that's the truth of the matter, no matter how many times they go out there and do something different, right? And that's the legacy of Jim Ryan. That is, at the end of the day, he will be famous for nothing more than that, than lying, telling everybody something, and then doing something different, leading PlayStation down a different path. Now, you could say, well, it's not his fault. Maybe, he's like been pressured to do other things, or they needed to do this for that reason or whatever. They were the first ones as a platform to champion $70 games. Another legacy of Jim Ryan. Championing for the payers, championing the price increases, all of those kind of things, right? And it's pretty interesting to see that and know that Jim is the money guy, right? Jim is the money guy, taking advantage of people's willingness to overlook things and to not pay attention to get screwed out of their money. And they've done it numerous times, not only with an inferior subscription service, but also with first company to price increase their games as far as first party goes. Then not only that, but then to go and not do free updates on a lot of their games and instead charge for definitive editions and remasters and remakes, 3 remasters of the same game within 10 years or 2 remasters of the same game within 10 years. They sold Last of Us Part 1 4 times. 4 times. They sold it originally on the PS3. They resold it again as a remaster on the PS4. Then they sold it as a remake, which was really a remaster make because it was halfway done on the PlayStation 5. And they also sold it separately on the PC because it doesn't have cross-buy. 4 times for the same game in 10 years. 4 times. 4 times reselling the same game instead of having them make new games and do other stuff. That's the legacy of Jim Ryan. How about other games where you transform expansions into full games and then give, like, for example, Spider-Man Remastered. There's not Spider-Man Remastered and Spider-Man Miles Morales. You'll never be able to convince me that Spider-Man Miles Morales was not originally planned as DLC. They needed some launch games. They needed some launch lineup games for the PS5. They transformed Miles Morales' DLC into a full-on expansion / 1.5 type game. They didn't charge the full price for it, if I can recall. But, magically, there's also a Spider-Man Remastered. And if you buy Miles Morales, for $70, you can also get Spider-Man Remastered. You know what the fuck that was? That was the definitive edition that came with the fucking DLC. They tricked everybody. Spider-Man Remastered with Miles Morales was just a definitive edition with the DLC. Or you could have just bought the DLC as a standalone. That's what that was. You'll never be able to convince me otherwise. They just morphed it and sold it as something different to add to the launch lineup of the PS5. Now we're finally getting the sequel this year with Spider-Man 2. It makes Insomniac look great because they're able to put out so much content, so many games in so many years, but really this is their next full game this year since they released Spider-Man 5 years ago. Just saying. Like, Insomniac's amazing, right? I love Insomniac, but let's not act like they put out full games every 2 years. If you transform expansions into full games, sure, yeah, you can call it whatever you want, right? But that just is what it is. Like, I respect the hell out of Insomniac. I love Insomniac. That's just the truth of it, though. Like, taking these games, putting out $70 versions every which way they can. Spider-Man Remaster with Miles Morales at launch. Remember that, $70 if you wanted the remaster of Spider-Man. And remember, it wasn't the only way to get it at first, right? Didn't you have to buy Miles Morales in order to get that at first, if I remember right? Ratchet & Clank, $70, one of the most overpriced games in history. Great game. A fun game. Ain't no way that ever had a right to be $70. How much did Xbox sell Psychonauts 2 for? Put those games in the same ballpark. Wasn't Psychonauts 2 like $50? That's what Ratchet and Clank should have been. $60? Yeah, fine. 60. Psychonauts 2, I think it was 50 at launch. I could be wrong. Psychonauts 2. I know they had a limited physical release from that other company that had done it for like 60 or something like that, or 70. I can't remember what they charged for it. But can't remember what they charged for Psychonauts 2 at launch. I'd have to go back. It was either 50 or $60. I think it was $59.99, 60. Right on. Charging 70 for Rift Apart, you know? I remember when they tried to charge $70 for Destruction All-Stars? Mr. Nichols says $39.99. Yeah, I don't remember. I remember it was cheaper, and then people freaked out when they had the physical release that was more. But remember, that wasn't published by Microsoft, right? That was a like special edition type physical thing that was put out there by like a limited run type company or something like that. It was part of their original Kickstarter plans or some shit. I can't remember exactly all the things that went down with that, but like Rift Apart at launch, $70. Destruction All-Stars, they tried to get 70. They announced Destruction All-Stars as a $70 game, everybody. They thought that was normal. They were like, oh, and then the clapback happened. And they're like, oh, well, I guess what we're going to do is put it in PlayStation Plus and then quietly drop the price. Remember when they broke the promises on free upgrade for Horizon Forbidden West, and then people freaked out and they had to do that as well? And the only reason that happened was because of the delays. People forget that last year was hard for Xbox. Last year was rough for Xbox. 2022 was really quiet. But most of the games that PlayStation had in 2022 were supposed to come out in 2020. Now look what PlayStation has this year. They got one game, Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is their only first-party game that's exclusive to PlayStation. Out of the entire year, one first-party game exclusive to PlayStation. The other first-party game they had this year was MLB The Show, which is in Game Pass. Yeah, no, truthserum, you're right. Xbox did it too. We criticized Xbox when they raised their prices too. It took them 2 years to do it though after PlayStation. It took them almost 3 years to do it after PlayStation. PlayStation led the way with the price increase for first party this generation. At a time, mind you, at a time when every single publisher and also every single platform holder was recording record massive profits. Everyone was posting these like, we're up 50%. Oh my God. Like, oh, the gaming is like growing. It's like everything's up. Oh, but we need to charge more. PlayStation was the first party platform holder to go up on the price of games. That is a fact. Xbox didn't do it until 2 or 3 years later, and Nintendo just did it with Zelda. That is it. That's not a lie. You can say what you want, truth, but I'm speaking the truth. Back when Activision was trying to do it, back when 2K was trying to do it, guess who had their back? Guess who also said, you know what, we're going to roll with this. We're going to make sure the prices go up. We're going to make sure that everybody understands that these games are expensive and they need to be $70. It was PlayStation. That was Jim Ryan. How would you want that for your legacy? We believe in generations. We believe in price increases. We believe in the players got to pay. Now, looking at where they were, the 5 years that Jim stood there, put out the games that had already started development since before he took charge, and then greenlit sequels to those same games to stay on top. Meanwhile, also on the back end, doing all these other things that I think they should be doing, going out and getting port studios, working on this PC app, putting out a subscription service. Every single one of those things was a half-ass step, and they are nowhere near in the position they need to be, or they should be right now by the time he's leaving. He's getting the fuck out of there before shit hits the fan. They're taking a look at their lineup for the future of PlayStation for 2024 and beyond, and looking at, oh man, we're going to be in a situation that is not very good, and he doesn't want to be here for it. He doesn't want to be here for the mess that he has made. Spider-Man 2, one big game this year. No games, first party wise, that anybody is truly extremely excited about for 2024 that are announced right now for PlayStation. Name me a 2024 PlayStation first party game that is being hyped right now. I will wait for the answer. First party PlayStation game 2024 that has a lot of excitement and hype. Remember, PlayStation's a company that usually announces games 18 months to 24 months at least ahead of time before they release. Sometimes 3 years, 4 years. They are one of the companies in gaming that has generally announced games earlier, first party wise, than other companies. Yeah, JW Universe. Why doesn't PlayStation have a smart delivery and you have to pay twice for the same game? Yeah, they're behind on so many of these aspects. Yeah, Jim put in motion. I think Jim knew the things that they needed to do, but I think he was battling an old culture of doing things within PlayStation that the rest of the teams there didn't want to do. Right? But it's his job to convince them. Remember, Phil Spencer had to convince Microsoft to cash in and go for Game Pass. He had to talk them into getting ABK. He had to talk to them about getting all these other studios. Right now, it's like Jim was fighting a losing battle within PlayStation about setting them up for the future. And where we're at now, they're in this middle crossroads ground that it's like a lot of open-ended aspects and ideas, a lot of non-solid things happening. PSVR has another failure again, and they just keep putting money into that kind of stuff. Half-ass stepping, working on all these other projects. The cloud store, or the PC store that is supposed to be in the works. Where is it? It is 2023, and they still don't have a place besides Steam to put their games on PC. How many years has Xbox now been putting their games day and date on PC? How many years does it take PlayStation to realize that they got to be in more places than just the PS5 and the PS4? I know that they were aware because they've said it numerous times in interviews that we got to be in more places than console. We can't just be on console. But where are they now? What is going on? Like, where is the plan? Right? They haven't announced any of these other things yet. I'm hoping they do soon. I'm hoping by the time he leaves, they have these things in place. If they put those things in place before he leaves in March, I will look at Jim in a different way. But as of right now, they don't have any games that are really exciting that are announced for PlayStation that are bringing in a lot of people that are like, oh, I can't wait for that freaking game. You can say Wolverine, yes, but when the hell is that coming out? When is Wolverine actually coming out? That's another example of what I talked about. PlayStation's usually a company that announces these games way ahead of time. Is people excited for Concord? Are people excited for Fair Games? Really? I mean, how much hype is there around those games? That's the games that they announced this year. That's the games that they actually announced this year. That's what was their big showcase. That was their big time showcase. Their first one that they put on at the summer show in a long time. This was their moment. They had a chance to shine. They had a chance to lay down the gauntlet like they did back in 2016 when they had all those big games at one show. All of them. They had all the Spider-Man. They had freaking God of War. They had Last of Us. They had like everything. They had like it was like, holy shit. Like, that set the table, right? That was before Jim took charge, mind you. He's been riding the coattails of this previous leadership ever since he took over. Meanwhile, screwing over consumers as much as he could to make every single dollar he possibly could for PlayStation, which is ultimately what his job is, but losing track of what made them special in the first place. Now, what position does he leave them in for the future? Every other inclination he had and every other idea that they had and every other thing they tried to put in place that was going to set them up for the future, for all these other aspects, these other quality of life things, these other things that are going to set them up to be in more places and all that stuff, every single one of those has been a half step and nowhere near as good as what Xbox has. He's done a hell of a job selling consoles. He's done a hell of a job lying to the fan base, piggybacking off of sequels, the same IPs, same games, the same formula, wearing that out. He's done a great job with that shit. He's done a great job if that's what you call doing a great job. But where does that leave them for the future? Where does that leave them for the next 5 years? I think whoever takes it now, the guy that's taken charge for PlayStation has got their work cut out for them. They've had their work cut out for them. They not only have to finish all the work of getting all these systems implemented to get their platform into more places, to do the PC app. They have to do fix their subscription service. They have to do all these other things. They also have to figure out what are all their studios what are all those studios doing? When are we finally able to announce some games? Like, what's going on? All these other like live service things they're experimenting with, and are they going to work out? Factions like Last of Us factions getting canceled, all these other things. Like, what's going on? They got to fix all that stuff. Whoever's taking charge has to look ahead at the pipeline and being like, what am I taking over? This is nowhere near what it was back in 2018 when you took over, Jim. Thanks for laying into my lap this pile of shit of nonsense that I don't know what to do with. They got their work cut out for them. They're in position. They are number one still. He's done a great job at selling consoles, but if you see the financials, consoles ain't profit. You remember those financials that came out, the reports about the profitability and all that kind of stuff? They gotta spend more money to make less than Xbox. They need to get out of that. Consistent revenue streams, services, games, software sales are down. How many times have we seen the financials for PlayStation come out? And software sales and services are down, but hardware sales are up. How the fuck does that make any sense? Services and software are down, but hardware is up. What the hell's going on? You're great at selling boxes. How much profit do you make on those boxes? That's why he knew they need to be in more places. They need to get to more consumers, have their games accessible in more places. But shit, a year plus later, releasing on PC ain't going to cut it. This games ain't going to sell that well that way. Calorie says Hiroki Totoki will become the chairman of Sony Interactive in October 2023, then take over as the company's interim CEO on April 1st when Jim Ryan officially retires. Jim loses power next, in my opinion. Yeah, there's gonna be an interim CEO. We'll see if he ends up becoming the full-time after, or if they bring in somebody from the outside. I think it's going to answer a lot of questions about how they felt about Jim Ryan, right? The fact that it is an interim is interesting as well. If they bring in somebody from the outside, maybe they're looking, and Pong brought this up in DMs, maybe, like, it's going to answer some questions on how they feel about it. Like, personally, if I was to look at it, I would say if they bring in somebody from the outside, that it looks like they're probably need to change and correct some things. If they just promote from under the leadership team of Jim Ryan, they're going to try and keep things the same as it's been going. And if you look at a revenue or consoles sold, they're in a great place. They're doing fantastic, right? You can't argue with that. But if I look at the pipeline and I look at the services and software and the ecosystem, I look at it as we got a lot of work to do. Because they're nowhere near the shape that they were in 2018. And how should you be judged when you leave? What are you handing over to the other team that's taking over? What are you passing along? What are the when you're giving the keys to somebody, are you giving them a lemon? A broke down thing that's got a lot of issues, or you getting them a nice running well-oiled machine? And I got questions because it's been saying, made a tweet earlier this year, PlayStation has a first-party games problem this year. Anybody wants to argue that with me? Fine. People tried to, but I don't know. Like, I'm just kind of a weird person that thinks that one first-party game a year ain't gonna cut it. Yeah, it's a big game. Ain't gonna cut it for me. We criticized Xbox last year when they had 3. Now, none of those were big games. Maybe if they had one big one and two smaller ones, whatever. But like this year, you look at Xbox's pipeline. You look at what the pipeline is that Xbox has coming up. You want to talk about legacy? You want to talk about changing the culture, changing things for the future? That's what Phil Spencer's been doing. Getting ABK, getting all these other studios, getting Obsidian, getting Double Fine, getting all these other studios, growing them, investing in the teams, getting projects going. Xbox had like 10 first-party games this year. 10. They had 3 shadow drops. 3 shadow drops in 1 year. They had Starfield. They have Forza still set to come out. That doesn't even include all the third-party games they have hitting Game Pass day one as well. And meanwhile, what does PlayStation do? They raise prices on PS Plus. They got a problem right now. They're in the same situation, this kind of like transition phase with their lineup that Xbox was in a long time ago. It's just weird to see it from the company that's on top. How can you be on top and let this... Were they resting on their laurels? Were they trying to say, oh, yeah, we're overconfident? Like, what was happening while Jim has been in charge to the pipeline? Alvin says there's still people sometimes I hear saying Xbox has to start releasing games. I saw this clip from a podcast on Twitter the other day, Alvin, and I'm like, this is like a conversation from like 2016 that this guy's having. He sounds like he's stuck in time. Like everything that they've done this year doesn't exist. I'm sick of that. It is crazy. I, as a consumer, I don't give a shit if it's Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo. I care about what I get to play and enjoy, and if it does it for me, right? If it's a good value, if I feel like they're earning my dollar. I have all 3 platforms right now. I have a Switch, I have a PS5, and I have an Xbox. Guess what gets played a lot more? It's the Xbox, because they're releasing a lot more games, and it's also the value of Game Pass keeps me invested into the ecosystem way better than having to spend $70 for every damn release. It's just the truth of the matter. Also, I got a PC now. I finally got a good PC. Guess what? I love cross-buy. I love cross-progression. I love all that shit. You know how awesome it is to be able to switch on the fly on PC between Starfield and Xbox, and knowing at first I didn't even have to buy the game? I didn't even have to buy Starfield. I have like 4 days in Starfield now. I didn't even have to buy the damn game. And I also get to play it between PC and Xbox, or if I wanted to, the cloud or whatever, and it just works. That's the reality of the ecosystem that we get with Xbox right now. PlayStation does not have that. They do not have that. And in fact, besides Wolverine and Spider-Man this year, there's not one game announced that I am excited for. Like, I feel like I can't wait on. Well, I would say Helldivers 2, I guess. That's on I'm going to play it on PC. So I'm not considering that, but I should, because it is technically first party. That's published by Sony. Helldivers 2, I'm looking forward to. I may be day one on that, but they just got delayed to 2024. It was supposed to be 2023. Well, where's Stellar Blade? Where was Helldivers 2? And all these other games this year that were supposed to be in 2023. Remember the shit that Xbox got for 2022? Remember that? Remember that, right? People are still dogging Phil for that because of his email saying it was a disaster. People are still dogging Xbox for what happened in 2022 when the shit's happening to them this year on PlayStation, and they don't even fucking see it. It is crazy. Take a look at what is happening in front of your eyes. Guess what we did here on this channel in 2022? We dogged Xbox for it. We said it was unacceptable. They should have put things in place. They should have made sure they were ahead of the game. They should have gotten more deals done. Whatever they needed to do. to have a better lineup in 2022, right? But you can't say shit about Xbox in 2023. But for some reason, people are still talking about Xbox's 2022 and ignoring PlayStation's 2023. One game. One big first-party exclusive on PlayStation this year. And that's supposed to be what it's all about, right? That's from that side. It's first-party exclusives is what everything's supposed to be about, right? Oh, we got the games. We got those big bangers. Remember all that shit? We got the games. You know, there's no end in sight to all those games. Oh, PlayStation's got better games than anybody else. You know, PlayStation this, PlayStation that. And I agree. I love a lot of them. Not recently. Where are they? Where? Got one this year. One. You can play one fucking game all year? One? You've been playing God of War Ragnarok for the last 11 months? Was that what you've been doing? Because it's like, that's all that matters, supposedly, right? And if you go back and say, oh, no, but there's all these third-party games and all that shit that matters, well, then why are the shit were you talking about Xbox for so long about the lack of first-party games? Because when people said that, hey, we got plenty of games to play, first party isn't everything, even when Xbox was still putting out multiple first party games a year, that was still a problem for Xbox when they were still releasing 2 or 3 first party games a year back then, at least, right? It was still a problem. People said Xbox had no games then, but they did. They just didn't like them because they weren't PlayStation's games, right? Even at that time, people were still saying that shit. And people were like, oh, the third party doesn't matter. It's all about the first party exclusive bangers, right? So how are you going to go there and cap for one fucking release in an entire year? You've been playing God of War Ragnarok for 11 months, really? How many times have you played through it and beat it? And just calling out the hypocrisy. What is it I want? 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 What do you mean, what do I want? Do I want Xbox acceptance? I don't give a shit if Xbox is accepted. I just calling out the fucking hypocrisy and the double standard that exists. It exists with the media. It exists with the with content creation. It exists out there in the public perception because of all that shit that gets permeated through the community and content creators. There's a double standard hypocrisy out there, and it comes to bite Xbox every single time they do something. What do I want? I want to play and enjoy the fucking games I am now. I'm happy. But I'm gonna call the way I see it. And I'm thinking Jim Ryan is leaving PlayStation in a worse position than when he got there in 2018. What do I want? I want PlayStation to have cross-buy. I want PlayStation to release their games day and date on PC. I want PlayStation to have games in their subscription service that come out day one. I want PlayStation to give me better value for my dollar. I want PlayStation to do all these other things that have now been kind of set in stone as a standard the last 5 years from their biggest competitor in Microsoft. I want Sony to get on board with all that shit. If you're asking what I want more value as a PlayStation consumer. I want more games that I'm excited for. I want more than one first party game a year. I want all of that. I want all that shit. I'm a consumer. I play video games. That's what I want. I want video games that I get for a good value. What do you mean, what do I want? Isn't that what everybody wants? Am I asking too much? I mean, Microsoft does it. They're doing it right now. How much shit did we get in Game Pass? Day and date. How many games released in on Xbox Game Pass day and date this year? I mean, shit, this is past week. We got like 5 of them. We got at least 5 this past week. Just in 1 week alone. We got like 5 first-party games. or 5, sorry, 5 day and date games, I mean, in Game Pass. What how many released in PlayStation Plus? I want Gran Turismo in fucking PlayStation Plus. It's been out for a long time. Why the fuck is that game not in there? Like, it's ridiculous. What do I want? I want PlayStation to stop trying to screw me over as a consumer. And I also want them to stop letting their shit get hacked. What do I want? I want the same value and benefit I get as a consumer on Xbox and PlayStation. I'll say that. If you want to say straight to the point, I don't want to have to pay for cloud saves if I don't want to. If they ain't releasing games and shit that I'm interested in, and I feel like I have to keep paying for it just because I might accidentally lose whatever games I have in the cloud, that's horseshit. I don't want that. And if maybe I would play it more if there was more fucking games that launched this year, then I'm excited, because PlayStation's always been my exclusive box. Like, I go to that place to play the one exclusive every once in a while that comes out if I'm interested in it. That's been what I do with PlayStation for years. I used to do it with the show, right? I did it for Gran Turismo games. I did it for Uncharted, Ghost of Tsushima, several first-party PlayStation games. That's what I go to it for. But that shit hasn't been turned on because there ain't fucking shit released this year. And instead, like, if I don't pay for the PlayStation Plus, the games, saves that I have in the cloud, if I let it slip for 6 months, they'll fucking be erased. I don't want that. I'll tell you that right now. I want them to fix that shit too. PlayStation Plus, I want better games in there, day and date. For if it's a gaming subscription service, if they're going to raise the prices as much as they did, I want them to improve the value of the service and actually put shit in there instead of being an inferior service. Ain't no right to be more expensive to the competition and have an inferior product. That's what I want. If I'm wrong for wanting that stuff, then just call me greedy, call me like anti-developer, whatever. I don't give a shit. I'm looking out for me and what I like to play and my money. Like, and I want to play good games, and I want them good for a good value, and I want to have great quality of life features in them. Tom for Tsunami with the $2 super chat with the fucking great one. Mav, what do you want, Jim? It's not that simple. Oh shit. That's great. It's not that simple. It's not that simple, Mav. I know Xbox been doing this stuff since like 2016, 2017, implementing thing after thing after thing. You know, we're gonna half step it. I talked about this a long time ago. People that have been watching the channel for a long time may remember conversations a long time ago, like especially when they announced their tiers for PlayStation Plus and all this other stuff. They're dipping their toe. I want PlayStation to go all in, and it's not because I like Xbox. It's because I want PlayStation to be successful in the future as well and release great games and have great quality of life features and the stuff that I'm interested in. Like, that's what I want, right? Like, shoot me. I'm sorry. You know, oh my God, that's such a horrible statement to make, right? I want good quality of life features on my ecosystem, and I want lots of games I'm interested in to play. Oh man, what am I asking for, right? What am I asking for, right? Is that? I'm sorry, like I don't want to be greedy or anything, you know, but I just feel like that would benefit me, and that's what I like, you know. So I'm sorry if it's asking too much. I understand you may find it difficult. I'll say PlayStation when they announced their tiers for PS Plus, when they did all that, when they're tiptoeing and they're dancing around like that, trying to figure this out, they were weak. PlayStation leadership was a bunch of pussies. I'll say that. I said it. They were afraid. They're afraid of giving value to the consumer. They're afraid of going full in on subscription because it's opposite approach of fucking over their consumer like they're used to. I mean, that's just what it is. Like, if they were really trying to push things forward for the future, the brand, they would be doing day and date on first-party games into their service. They would be trying to get people to subscribe to PlayStation Plus. They'd be trying to get their ecosystem growing more outside of PlayStation faster. Instead, every single step they've taken along this path, which they've said in interviews, that's where they see they need to go. That's why also they have all these live service games that nobody's excited for announced right now. That's why they have all this shit going. Everything's a half step. Go all in or you're going to fucking die. Don't wuss out. Go all in and commit. You're playing this half-step game is going to get you in trouble. You need a constant revenue of income coming to help grow this ecosystem over multiple devices. Because if you rely on the box for too long, you rely on that lead in the hardware market, you rely on just the consoles, you're going to die a slow death. You need to get out there and get in front of this thing, PlayStation. And that's what I want. And I don't feel like Jim did enough. I feel like he may have tried. But I feel like it was a half step, battling the old with the new, and they were afraid to go all in. And he's leaving it in this half weird stage where they don't have a lot of stuff announced. Now, maybe next year they come out and they announce like 5 big, huge first-party games that everybody's excited for and all this stuff that are coming out soon, and I'll take it back, right? But why didn't they do that this year? Why did they have the 2 shows that they had this year in June or July, whatever that first one was, and then this month? Why did they have those shows? Why did they have those shows be as shit as they were? If they had the lineup in their pocket. I can't answer the question. I would be curious if anybody can. They're sitting on gold. They're sitting on gold. Why not announce these games? I would love to see them. I want to get excited. The only thing I'm excited for beyond this year is Wolverine. That are big, like for first party games. Like Wolverine's it. And I have no clue when that's coming out. Magnum Westward said they had those shows because of marketing deals. Well, like, they should have had their shit to show. They should have had stuff to show. Xbox's horrible show last year, that was a 12-month pipeline show, was better than both PlayStation shows this year put together. Talos Re says he tried and in the end he died. Yeah, Jim Ryan, I feel like he's leaving when he knows the time's going to come and shit's going to hit the fan and he doesn't want to be there when it does. I think he sees the writing on the wall for a shitstorm in the next couple years. We'll see where things go. Like I said, it's very possible I'm completely wrong and they announce all these things and they have an amazing 2024 full of first party games and all this stuff, right? They could I could be completely wrong. But where I just don't see it right now because there's nothing announced. They had to market their movie in a game showcase. Yeah. the transition phase for PlayStation is not looking good right now. I can't wait to talk to Pong about this stuff tomorrow on PM and the PM. I know he has a different outlook on this stuff, right? So it's going to be interesting. But I feel like Jim Ryan might be the worst thing to ever happen to PlayStation. Besides the launch of the PS3. The launch of the PS3 was a disaster. I think he might. I think they were looking. I think the higher ups and Jim, they're all looking at the forecast for the future. You know, their profits. They're looking at like the pipeline, and they see like, oh shit. Like disaster emails are being sent around, like Phil's 2022 email, and it's like, what we do? Jim's like, you know what? This is a good time to retire. I think we're gonna step aside and watch it burn. Leaving before you fulfilled your vision is never a positive sign. I'm curious who's going to take over. Like, I really hope for the best. The past PlayStation execs, I got to say, they earned respect. Regardless, I mean, they earned our respect. Like, there was a lot of them that we watched the shows, and it's like, they had a passion for games, right? They had a passion for it. They really loved the gaming industry. They loved video games. They sold the games well. They developed this pipeline of amazing first-party content. They stayed consumer focused for a long time. Jim takes over. Everything flips the script. They got cocky, milking the consumers out of everything they can get. Remasters, definitive editions. When everybody else stopped doing it, they kept on. Everybody else released some free updates. They kept on charging and charging and charging. Greenlighting remasters and remakes. And how many more of them are we going to get to see? And that's been their goal and their ticket this generation for content. Still sequels to all the games that have took off before he took control. All that kind of stuff. Where's all the big new games? Where's all the games that have been greenlit and kickstarted under Jim Ryan's era? Well, I'll tell you, Concord and Fair Games, if that excites you, hey, cool, right? I feel like they need some of those games, but where was the other ones that people are actually going to be excited about? Insomniac's been the only studio delivering. Mr. Joanna Dark, shout out to Mr. Joanna Dark, says they should have Jerry Jones run the team. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he's leaving. I don't think he's just like, you know what? It's like, I've had a good run, you know, I've been talking to my family. I think it's time to retire. I think even if stuff like that comes out, I think it's horse shit. I think he's seeing this, like, they're not in a great pipeline state right now. I feel like they're looking at things and be like, we need to really change direction and course here. We need to go more all in on all this stuff. And we kind of have stepped it along the way. And I feel like this is a good time to step aside because I'm haven't gotten them there, right? And like he doesn't want to, either he doesn't have the know-how or the willpower to foresee it through, or he is afraid of what's going to happen from the shitstorm that he started. Anonymous Boss with the $2 says, I want Halo 6. Let's go. P.S. Found a sealed OG Xbox. Nice. Sweet. I want Halo 6 too. I mean, the thing about Xbox is they're not ever going to give up on Halo. I mean, we're going to get it. If you remember after the Summer Games Fest, the showcases and all that stuff, Xbox came out and they said, like, hey, you know, we're actually excited for the future of Halo still, and we are excited for people to find out the stuff that we're working on, right? So that's definitely a thing. Don't know when it's going to happen. That's a really big question. Yeah, it's a lot of shakeup. I'm curious though, like what's going to transpire with the new leadership. Like, what are there going to be changes? Is it going to be more of a forecast into like mobile and PC and all this stuff? Are they going to change direction on that, or what are they going to do? Inherently, and all these companies, and we've been saying this for a long time too, like Xbox fans are in the position they are in right now with the lineup and the ecosystem we have because of Phil Spencer's leadership there mainly. And a lot of times, like any place, any business, any even if you can go to like McDonald's, right? Like, or Burger King, or anything. You can go to a grocery store or whatever. A lot of times, how good a company is ran and how well the consumer is respected comes from the top, and the ability for the leader, the manager, whoever it is, to actually lead the team and set them up for success, right? Set the company up for success, set the business up for success, whether it's training or whether it's like, organization or ideas and all these different things, right? Like, you could have 2 fucking Burger Kings, right? Like 2 blocks away. And one can be complete shit, never consistent, always ass, people are rude, all that kind of stuff, right? You can go to 1, 2 blocks away and it's like fucking perfect every time, right? It depends on the management, the leadership, right? So when you're in charge of a huge company, now obviously, like, there's a lot of other moving parts and all these other things that can also go wrong and all these other aspects, right? Especially if it's much bigger industry. But still, those effects take hold and are rooted through these companies, and we're in a position as Xbox with the ecosystem, if you're an Xbox consumer, because mainly of Phil Spencer, right? So Jim Ryan leaving PlayStation is going to have an effect. Don't know what kind of effect it'll be. It'll be a positive one or it'll be a negative one, right? But there will be an effect on the consumers because of this move, one way or another. I'm hoping it's a positive thing. I'm hoping we love the next CEO or whatever, president of PlayStation, whatever you want to call it. I don't know his official title. But whoever takes that position, I hope that the consumers are benefited. If you were asking me today how I saw the Jim Ryan era, I would say the consumers were not benefited from him taking over. I would say it was probably the opposite. Huda Connect says games people beat in a weekend are done with it, and a month later that same game is in Hawkship or GameStop near you. Yeah. PlayStation needs variety on their console. Like Xbox has every genre of game on their console and PC. Does PlayStation have that? No. They have linear games and movie blockbusters. Yeah, they need more variety. But like right now, they don't have a lot of even their regular games announced. So they need both. They can't just like abandon the third-party big action, third-person action adventure, story-based blockbusters that they have. They need to have that. But they also need like the live service stuff. They need these other things. But they kind of need them all like in a regular cadence together. They can't go like 2 years just releasing these live service games and not have big single-player action adventure games also. Like they need to have a mixed bag because otherwise they're going to have an outrage from their fan base, right? And right now I just don't see the lineup. It's just not existent. Let's see. Mr. Joanna Dark says Colin Moriarty next CEO. Yeah. I don't know if he would be the answer because doesn't he hate Game Pass? Whoever takes charge needs to be into subscription services. Like Jim Ryan obviously is not. He was criticizing Game Pass. He even made another lie saying that every publisher hates Game Pass. When you have numerous examples of publishers and executives coming out saying how much they love Game Pass. Now, he may have been talking about the big AAA publishers, about some of their own subscriptions or about how they feel about putting their games there. Like 2K has been outspoken that they don't want to put their games day one, but guess what? They still use Game Pass. Like Game Pass is more than just day and date, right? But Jim Ryan actually made a statement saying that all publishers hate Game Pass, which is just not true. Otherwise, why would they have their own fucking subscription services? Ubisoft has their own subscription service. EA has their own subscription service. They hate Game Pass? They hate subscription services? They're doing it themselves. PlayStation even has their own subscription service. The only reason he hates Game Pass is because his version of Game Pass sucks ass. PlayStation Plus is trash compared to Game Pass. Like, no matter what you want to say, no matter who wants to look at it for, like, and try and make an excuse or whatever why they prefer PlayStation Plus, there's absolutely zero argument that PlayStation Plus is superior to Game Pass in any way. And all you got to do is say these simple words: day and date. Because that equals value. I was right, the Jim Ryan error. Bobby made us, yeah, as I was say, the big, some of the big publishers, yeah, they don't like Game Pass. Yeah. And there's no. So? Come out and say everybody hates Game Pass, every publisher hates Game Pass was a blunt, bold-faced lie to the investors. And then in the same questioning, he went on to try and claim that PlayStation Plus had 50 million consumers compared to Game Pass's 25 million. Twisting their numbers because remember at this time they had just switched PS Plus into the 3-tier system, and PS Plus became PS Plus Essentials, Extra, and Premium. So all of a sudden, the people that were paying for cloud saves and multiplayer got wrapped into this. So they took those numbers and said 50 mil. Game Pass was separate from Xbox Live Gold, which was a separate subscription, right? That would be equivalent to PS Plus, but those numbers aren't counted in Jim Ryan's head, right? So that way he can sell to investors that they have a great subscription service that's double what Xbox's was, when actually Xbox had way more paying customers in a subscription than PlayStation did. Now, if you were to go today and look at the numbers all over again, because Xbox did the same thing that PlayStation did, changing Xbox Live Gold to Game Pass Core, now you have multiple tiers of Game Pass. You have 3 main tiers of Game Pass: Game Pass Core, Game Pass, and then Game Pass Ultimate. You could say Game Pass has twice as many subscribers as PS Plus. Jim's lies and twisting of things have never stopped since he's taken over. And the crazy thing is news media, content creators, casuals all fall for this shit constantly. I will say this, that guy is a great liar. He is great at twisting things and wording things, and so that way the uninformed consumer will buy into it. Mr. Dwayne Dark says, what does Saints Row and Callisto Protocol have in common? They retired. That's funny. Hooded Canuck, is it true if you don't renew your PS Plus, you lose all your save files for that game? Yeah, you got like 6 months. Jim Ryan going to Unity? You think that's the case? Oh, man. That'd be crazy. Everybody, like, here's the thing, expert, right? I would say, like, people that are in podcast stream chats and, like, in the community are paying attention to news on Twitter and social media and all these kind of things, right? A lot of these people are more informed, right? So like our chat obviously knew Jim was lying, right? But how many times do you just pass like somebody that just like does kind of like a casual, they don't really follow the news too much or whatever, and like they see an article like just pop up and they don't read it, or they kind of hear from somebody that saw something and they're like, oh yeah, okay, you know, or the news media that's completely not in touch with the games industry, just run with these articles and interviews as like fact and just put it out there, and like it comes off as like it's factual because, you know, they have actually portrayed this as factual information because it came from Jim Ryan's mouth, right? Like that's where the danger is, because you have people that don't know shit actually falling for it, whereas people that are like us are following it like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, you realize PS Plus Essentials is the same thing that PS Plus just was, and I understand what you're doing to try and wrap everything into one consumer base. That way you can try and sell people on your subscription service and inflate your numbers and all that kind of stuff. But like, if you're doing that, you have to actually have PS Plus Essentials as a gaming subscription service and not the exact fucking thing that it was before. They literally didn't add anything to Essentials. They actually took shit away. They took shit away. They didn't give any extra value when they made PS Plus Essentials. They actually took stuff away. And they're going to go and all of a sudden inflate those into some kind of like gaming subscription service to compete with Game Pass, to be able to sell people on that they have more subscribers than Xbox did. It was just fucking lies. It was lies. It was twisting information for the benefit of PlayStation, which you can say, hey, good job, Jim. You're actually doing great at fucking lying and twisting the truth. But people like us, we see through that shit. It's just bold-faced, blatant bullshit that you're putting out there to prop yourselves up, that news media, games media, other people just obviously don't see through it. Now, if you look back, since Xbox did the same damn thing, do it again, Jim, and see how it turns out. Try and actually go and have that same conversation you had to investors in 2022 and try and use your numbers again and see how it plays out. Because Xbox did the same thing, wrapping everything up into one tiered system with Game Pass Core, Game Pass, and Game Pass Ultimate. The difference here is, holy shit, Game Pass Core actually is a gaming subscription service, because guess what you get in Game Pass Core? You actually get a gaming subscription with fucking games in it. Mind blown. Anonymous Boss with the 5. Appreciate you. Says IGN Games has just launched a video 4 hours ago, and Phil Spencer wants MechAssault back and revived. Have you played it, Mav? Ask the chat if they have. I have played MechAssault. I actually played MechAssault 2 Lone Wolf quite a bit back in the day on the Xbox, and I loved it. They don't have any plans. Phil Spencer said this multiple times, that the game is in some kind of licensing IP hell, the franchise is, and that he would love the opportunity to do it if it ever arises. I say to Phil, and I say to Xbox, just make a different mech game with a different damn name and make it play exactly like MechAssault, except new and refresh. You're going to have to reboot the whole thing anyway. Like, if you can't get the license for it, who fucking cares if it's called MechAssault at this point? Just make a similar game and call it something else. I don't care. Nobody cares if it's called MechAssault. Like, it'd be cool. It'd be great. I would love if it's called MechAssault. But if you just fucking make us a different mech game and call it like something else, I'm sure people would be really happy about it. Maybe it's harder to sell because people aren't as familiar with the IP, but it's been so damn long, the average consumer doesn't even know what the fuck MechAssault is. Just move past that idea and just get a team and make a brand new mech game that plays like MechAssault somewhat, that same concept and idea, and make a spiritual successor to it, and people will do it. That's your solution, Phil. If you can't get the license, you can't get the IP, like, let's just do that. Easy peasy. Spiritual successor happens all the time. Yeah, that's what I would vote on, but who knows what they do. Am I changing my camera angles like Reforge? No. I could. I have a button here over there, but I would have to set my camera up in another spot, because I have 2 cameras now, so I could do it, but I don't have it set up because I don't want, where it's set right now is for my second streaming location right here, and I don't want a side shot of me just like it's already enough of a side shot right now. Yeah, Mechavolt. Mechavolt. They have been really close with Paradox, who own the studio that has the other half of the rights. I think Xbox will buy them to get it back, to be honest. Hopefully so. Like, originally that was a FASA game, Studio Games. Man, the Xbox made a mistake letting that whole team go, right? Crimson Skies, Mech Assault, so many, Shadowrun, so many great games back in the day. Mechfall. If they decide to go in a new direction, you say it could take years. Yeah, depending on how much of a different direction they go. Like, anytime you do any kind of major changes or transitions or different ideas, yeah, there's an adjustment period. Just look at Xbox, right? It's a huge adjustment period. Like, they started acquiring all these studios in what, 2018 or so? Obsidian and like Double Fine got acquired. You had Playground, you had Undead Labs, In Exile, Ninja Theory. Yeah, you had all these acquisitions, right? Then you had Cinemax Bethesda. Oh yeah, Compulsion as well, right? They still haven't released a game as a first-party studio, right? Like, it is a process. Maybe the people who fired Jim want PlayStation to be like Xbox and you'll get your wish. I don't want PlayStation to be just like Xbox, but I want the quality of life features that Xbox has to be a industry standard, not just PlayStation. Like, I want third-party companies, everything. If you buy a game, you should own the game. You should be able to play it wherever the fuck you want to. Right? If I buy, for example, Cyberpunk, right? I just had to buy Cyberpunk on PC. I already owned it on Xbox. I would love to be able to just own the game and play it where I want to. Like, that's how movies work. That's how music works. Like, entertainment and media. Yeah, I understand with games, you have to develop things for different platforms and all that kind of stuff. But as a consumer, I'm looking at it from my perspective. Like, I bought the game. Let me play it wherever I can. Right? Like, yeah, you have your different versions at different, different, like, qualities and stuff like this, different optimizations for different platforms, all this kind of stuff. But I want that for third-party publishers. I want it for first-party publishers, all that stuff. If I buy a game, I want to be able to play it wherever the fuck I want. Right? Now, you're not necessarily going to be able to buy an Xbox game and go play it on a PlayStation. Right? But you can buy an Xbox game, you should be able to play it on PC, which you can, right? I want Nintendo to actually make their games playable on PC as well. I want PlayStation to make their games playable on PC. I want both companies to also have their games playable day and date in the cloud. I want all of that stuff, right? That's not saying being like Xbox. That's just telling me to give options to the consumer. I want cross-buy. I want cross-progression. I want cross-save. And I don't want to have to pay for the rights to save my games into the cloud. I'm already paying for the games. Survey says, to be 100% honest, I'm in the camp of I don't think any games at all should be exclusive to any platforms. In a world of non-exclusives, I would be completely happy. I think devices would then be sold on the merits of the quality of the hardware itself, not just the software that they put out there to sell people on the hardware. So at that point, it's about the quality of the games, determining what you buy, not what's made available to you. And then secondly, the devices that you buy is going to be also based on the quality of the games that it plays games, right? So for me personally, I would be okay with that, but it's not the reality that we live in. And business-wise, I would argue that Xbox doesn't make sense for them. It doesn't make sense for PlayStation. It doesn't make sense for Nintendo to get rid of exclusives. So I would say they should keep making games exclusive, because if you're looking at their businesses, it's what's best for them currently. But for me, I kind of, as a consumer, look at it a different perspective. And of course, I would like that. Like, I would get rid of my PlayStation in a heartbeat. Like I would sell my, I would, if there was no exclusives, I would sell my PlayStation instantly. I'd sell my Switch. I would have an Xbox and a PC. I would have my Xbox for the TV. I'd have my PC for games as well. And maybe eventually I would own a handheld device if there's one I really love that's a good price, right? As long as it also played all the games, good. And that would be my ecosystem. Maybe that becomes my phone with Apple in the future, or Android, whatever they do with gaming. Who knows, right? Like, but I would be okay with that personally. I would be actually championing it, but as a looking at it from Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony's perspective, doesn't make any sense for them right now. Maybe there will be a day when it does make sense, but that day is when hardware sales are so low that it doesn't matter across the board. At that point, though, they're just going to sell you on subscriptions to all the services like a Netflix does or a Prime and all that kind of stuff, and then you're still going to be able to buy your games, but they're just going to be purchasable probably through those storefronts. Or it could be like how it is with movies now, because you can buy movies in different services, but you can only stream them in certain ones, right? Like if I go on Amazon Prime, like right now, I can buy like any movie, or Apple TV, you can buy any movie, right? But they only have certain movies available for streaming, which is their ones they have the rights to. You know what I mean? That could be the way that it goes with games eventually. But they got to get to the point where the hardware doesn't matter. And for a long time coming, at least for the 8 years after 2028, it's still going to matter. Hardware is going to matter for a while. And as long as hardware matters, they need as many people on the hardware to own the hardware as possible. So exclusives are going to matter. But even then, you can argue about it for the subscriptions and the ecosystems. Like exclusives are always going to be a thing, but at least value for like Game Pass and stuff like that. But PlayStation's, they're way behind on this. I've been talking about this for a while. The PlayStation's so far behind with their subscription model and their services that it's putting them behind of the future of what the future of gaming is. They're in a strong position now with hardware, but that doesn't necessarily set the stage, the table for a great outlook. 5 years from now, how will we see the past 5 years, right? Right now, we look at the past 5 years for PlayStation. We say, hey, what a great run. You know, if you go back to 2016, you can look at the past 7 years for PlayStation. Really, that I think it was where PlayStation's been their strongest in a long time, is the last 7 years since the PS2 era. And how will we look back at these at this next 5 years, right? So in like 2028, when next gen's launching, will we look back at these past 5 years of PlayStation as a success? The 2023 to 2028. I would just argue that I don't know the roadmap for that. Whereas, if you were to ask me in 2016 to 2018 how I felt about the next 5 years of PlayStation, I would say it's looking fucking bright and strong, right? It's looking great. Like the next 5 years of PlayStation, they got a lot going for them. Whether there's stuff that excites me as much or not, that's irrelevant. But they had a really strong roadmap. They had all these games that were going. They had all this stuff, and they were selling consoles like crazy. Yeah, they were in a great place. You asked me that 5 years ago, I could predict that PlayStation is going to have an amazing 5 years ahead. Today, you asked me to predict the next 5 years for PlayStation. I have way less confidence than I would have in 2018. And that is the mark of the leadership of Jim Ryan. How are you leaving it? How is the confidence in the brand going forward? Right? If you judge the reaction of the shows and stuff they had this year and the lineup of games that's announced, there's a lot of questions. So bye. We'll see. I'm really curious. I mean, if they get like a Jack Tretton type character, type guy, a Shuhei Yoshida, like get one of these guys, that's like really great with the fans and the consumers. Really, Sean Layden, right? They know what they're doing with conversation and communicating and ideas, putting the games and the customers first. That is what they need. But we'll see. I don't know like who they're gonna get. Like I don't know what the ideas are gonna be. But I just know services and pipeline of content. If you look at the forecast right now, they have some catching up to do. Where's the Ronin game? Talos says I don't know. I'm looking forward to that game. That's a third-party exclusive right now from Bandai Namco, I believe. Looks sick. It's kind of like it looks like almost like a Ghost of Tsushima type game. It looks awesome. I'm looking forward to it. It's a samurai game. That's probably, besides Wolverine, the game I'm most interested in that's been announced for PlayStation. It's not first party, but besides that, now also question is like, where's Ghost of Tsushima 2? When will that come out? Somebody on my timeline had made a comment because I said, honestly, I think Jim Ryan benefited a lot during his tenure from what the previous leadership set in motion. The question is, did he leave the brand in a better place for the next 5 years? Looking at the announced lineup, I have serious doubts. And Tominator, I don't know who that is, but shout out to him on Twitter, replied with a successful launch of PlayStation 5 and growing their internal studios. He did better than Phil within the same time frame. Same time frame, better than Phil. Phil bought ABK in that same time frame. Jim battled it and lost. Phil also has acquired numerous other studios, including ZeniMax, Bethesda, and has a huge pipeline of games that is announced. So, but to Tominator's point, he says that Jim did better than Phil. If you measure console sales, you could say that. He said there's a strong lineup of coming in this next few years under Jimbo. He sucks in front of the cameras, but he knew what he was doing. I'm not attacking Tominator or anything like this because he's respectful to me. He just has his opinion, so respectful back to him. But he wrote a timetable for the pipeline. Now, third party, you can add that if you want. I don't really count too much third party stuff because both companies have their different third party deals. Personally, I prefer the Game Pass deals that Xbox has, but this list has a lot of third party shit in there, so we'll go ahead and look at it. Spider-Man 2 is what he said on the list. Then The Last of Us Naughty Online Naughty Dog, so he's talking about factions. Don't put any faith in that. Marathon, that's a multi-plat. He counts Wolverine as a 2024 game. That ain't happening. Concord 2024. Yeah, I don't see a lot of excitement about Concord. Nobody knows what the fuck it really is. So, but it is a first party game, so you can give them credit there. New espionage IP multiplayer from Ben Studios for 2024. Haven't seen or heard of it yet. So if it's coming out next year, surprised it wasn't announced this year, but hey, maybe they have something. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff on this that's very assumed on this list, including Ghost of Tsushima 2 for 2025. I could put some money on that. I could say I could see that happening. Ghost of Tsushima 2 on 2025. I hope it does. It has not been announced yet. There's smoke out there. Where there's smoke, sometimes there's fire. But it's not enough to put on this list as it's a confirmed title coming to 2025. The game hasn't even been announced, number one. And we definitely don't have a release date, number two. New IP from Neil Druckmann, they say in 2025. Where are these dates coming from? I hope so. Maybe it's rumors. I hope so. This is a lineup. I mean, I could go down and talk tons of games that are actually announced with years for Xbox. Ghost of Tsushima 2, already said that. A new IP for Neil Druckmann, already said that. New Cory Barlog sci-fi IP. That's another thing that's kind of leaked. Rumors, all that stuff out there. We'll see, but that's also, he has a date on and a year on here. That's where's he pulling these out of his ass? I don't understand where these dates and things are coming from. I hope so. He could be right. It could be right, but it's not enough to say it's in the pipeline yet for a year because we don't fucking know shit. Let's see. 3D action platformer, Asobi 2025. Where's that? I don't even know what studio that is. 3D action platformer from Asobi. Is that a thing? I don't know who that is. And I don't know what it is. Like, but it's on this list, so we'll say it's on his list. So I'll maybe assume that it's a thing. Tom for Toonami with a $2 super chat says Wolverine as early as 2027. I don't know when Wolverine is going to come out. I know that the last mainline game from Insomniac, the last big one, was actually in 2018. So it took 5 years for that. 3 years ago, they released Miles Morales, which was like I feel like Miles Morales was more like a 1.5 type thing, right? A great project. Insomniac's crazy good. You know, they're an amazing studio. Love them. But I wouldn't put faith in Wolverine for next year. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's going to be as far away as 2027. Because I feel like they've probably already been working on it, like, while they've been working on Spider-Man 2. They have multiple teams at Insomniac. They've done, like, multiple games at the same time before. So, it's possible, I would say, like, 2025, 2026. I don't see 2024. I don't think that's happening. If it does, that's crazy. That's amazing. Right? But let's see. Tominator. What's up, Forte? Forte, have you heard of this Asobi? I'm looking at this list. I need to show this list. I need to show this tweet. Because here we go. This list, I don't know where he got this list from. But this was the supposed lineup that Tominator said on Twitter of why there's a strong lineup for PlayStation. Oh, hold on, I need to do something real quick. I need to take this off. Bear with me. Okay. I didn't want to lose my YouTube. All right. Asobo made it as, so he said Asobi. I didn't know if he was talking about Asobo or Asobi. Okay. So what he's saying is, if you look at the list, Asobo has a 3D action platformer confirmed for 2025 because it's on his pipeline list. Is that like a thing, or is it a rumor, or is it out of thin air? I just want to know where these things come from. I might need to. I think I need to save this list so I can bring it up bigger. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Y'all guys can see that now, right? All the stuff is rumor. Okay, because this is the pipeline, according to Tominator. So I'll start back at the top. Spider-Man 2, yeah, of course. Last of Us Online, Naughty Dog 2024 Factions 2024 is what they're saying. Marathon 2024, that's probably safe. Or did Marathon even get a date though? I don't know if Marathon got a date. I know that Concord and Fair Games was supposed to be the 2024 games, right? But I wasn't sure about Marathon. Maybe Marathon was 2024. I don't remember. Wolverine, Concord, new espionage IP multiplayer from Ben Studios coming out 2024. Is this a strong? I'm asking you, Forte, just because I know you are really in tune with this stuff. Is that a rumor, or was that something that was a project that's officially been mentioned that they're working on an espionage IP multiplayer game that's supposed to come out next year, or is this out of thin air? Is this out of like someone's asshole? I'm not denying the fact that they could be working on a game that's rumored like that, but to put 2024 on it is where I'm questioning. Ghost of Tsushima 2, they say, for 2025. New IP Neil Druckmann, Naughty Dog 2025. Cory Barlog sci-fi IP Santa Monica 2025. 3D action platformer from Asobo 2025. That Asobi confused me. God of War Egypt Santa Monica 2027. They know what the next God of War is and when it's coming out. Fucking amazing. Fucking Nostradamus here. Well, we know that the next God of War was rumored to be Egyptian gods, right? Yeah, thanks, Luis. The Last of Us Part 3. Naughty Dog 2026. Horizon 3 Nemesis Guerrilla 2027. Is this really what they think is going on? I mean, some of these down here, you know, they put on the bottom are like, yeah, Fair Games. You got, you know, the Horizon multiplayer game that's been talked about. Stellar Blade, obviously that's been talked about. It was supposed to be out this year. It looks like it's next year as well. So they got that right. Rise of the Ronin, hopefully 2024. That game looks awesome. I'm really excited for it. Death Stranding 2, that's been obviously shown. So that wouldn't surprise me if it's 2024. A new Uncharted game. Naughty Dog Visual Arts 2025. A new Uncharted game 2025. Book it. Let's go. I love Uncharted. But this list, it just looks like a bunch of like guesses. It's not like a lineup. I like the guesses, and some of them aren't that far-fetched. You know what I mean? Like, I could go through and say, like, what I could see happening. Like, Spider-Man 2, yeah, we know that. Last of Us Naughty Dog multiplayer, actually releasing factions next year, I don't see it happening. Marathon, sure, yeah. Wolverine next year, I don't see that happening. Concord, sure. The Ben Studios game actually being next year, I don't see that happening. Ghost of Tsushima 2, 2025. I could see that happening. That's a good guess. I could see it happening. A new IP, Neil Druckmann, Naughty Dog, 2025. Maybe a little soon. Maybe a little soon, but maybe it's happening 2025. It could be. Cory Barlog's game, awesome. Man, if you get Neil Druckmann's new IP and Cory Barlog's IP in the same fucking year, as well as Ghost of Tsushima 2, that's a strong fucking year, right? Like, that's an amazing year. If that happens, that's fucking fantastic. And I'll take everything back I said about Jim Ryan. Yeah, if that happens and we get those 3 games in 2025, I will take back everything I said about Jim Ryan on this stream about how he didn't set things up great for the next team. If this is the pipeline, if this is accurate, if this Dominator is Nostradamus, and gave us this list of like it as actually happening as this is listed. I take back every damn thing I said about Jim Ryan, but it's still not as good as Xbox's lineup. And here's one reason why. $70, $70, $70, $70, $70, $70, $70, $70, $70, $70, $70, $70, $70, $70, $70, $70, $70, $70, $70, $70, $70, $70, $70. Game Pass, baby. Plus also Xbox actually has a lot of great games in the lineup that are announced. Avowed, Hellblade 2, Perfect Dark, Fable. Who knows when some of them are coming out, right? I'm not going to put fake dates on them like here. But they're actually announced games. Flight Sims coming out next year. You have, I mean, they had so many games at the showcase. I can't even remember all of them. They had South of Midnight. All in Game Pass. Day and date. Day and date. Makes a difference, folks. Sure does. I am late today, Neon. Been late. We've been having fun saying bye, 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 bye to Jim Ryan. He gone. What is his legacy? What is Jim Ryan's legacy? Other than riding the coattails of the previous leadership's projects and IPs, half steps into services and quality of life features, and lying to the consumers and price increases. What is the legacy for Jim besides those things? Say it's not going to be that strong. Afraid my mic's going to fall over. I have a new mic clamp and a boom arm that I need to install because this one's jacking up my fucking desk, man. Anyway, everybody, thank you all for watching the stream. The chat's been amazing. How long have we been live? Almost 2 hours. He did sell a lot of PS5s. That's an accomplishment. He did great selling the PS5s. Like, as far as like lying to the consumers to get them to buy into what he was selling, and milking the consumers for everything they got for remasters, definitive editions, remakes, and increasing the prices and everything, getting everybody to champion it. He's amazing. He's fucking great at that. Good job. The great sales guy to that kind of stuff. When you can look at people in the eye and just straight up lie to them in the face, it's talent. It's talent. He's great at it. So if that's your job, you know, if that's what it's all about, good job. We believe in generations. All that. Anyway, guys, we're going to call it here. I want to thank every single one of you for being here for the stream. You guys rock. Shout out again to Anonymous Boss, Neon, Talos Re, Luis Jose, J Gaming in 1986, Def Leppard, Ray Oid. Let's see, 3-Bit as well, here hanging out. Focus Active, Jesse B, Scratch Acid. Rain Bolt, what up? What up? Beer Baron, Lakers fan. Did I read this super chat? Tom Tsunami with the $2 says it's nice fan fiction. I appreciate that, Tom. It's great fan fiction. It almost reads as good as my list of. Y'all remember my list of games leaked for E3. Yeah, that was great. Shout out to my beautiful wife Caitlin for the thumbnail. I love the thumbnail, babe. Thank you so much. Let's see, Niturnal. What up, Niturnal? Let's see, did I say J Gaming 1986? Yeah, Relzair, how's it going? Thank you for being here. JW Universe, what's up? Thanks for being here. See, Truth Serum, thanks for being here as well. Understanding, see, we got so many awesome people. Let's say Forte, what's up, Forte again? Okay, as we go through this list, there's so many names. It's hard to remember which names you've already said or not. Anyway, if I miss you, sorry, but thank you all. You guys rock. Tomorrow, Pong Soul. Yeah, we need the Hello Kitty MMO. Pong Soul and I will be live at 7 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow night, and it's going to be interesting conversations. I know Pong and I differ on some of this stuff. I'm curious where we're going to stand on it, and, we'll have some great discussion, and also more stuff happening. Like the FTC thing, I think is really a nothing burger. Reopening their whatever. They're not going to get a court date till like December something anyway. They're going to lose, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, the ABK thing is probably shutting down or closing in 2 weeks or so. So FTC too little too late on that. But it is what it is. They're gonna be them. Waste our taxpayer dollars. Thank you. Especially, I have absolutely no case now. I mean, just absolutely ludicrous. But you guys rock. Thanks again for being here. See y'all tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern. Then a Friday Xbox Ultimate podcast at 10 p.m. Eastern time as well. Bye, Jim. It's been real. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Peace, everybody. Later.